Don't gotta explain myself.
Welcome back, everyone, to another summer edition of DGXM podcast. We are so excited to introduce our next guest. His name is Edmond Cami, and he's one of the first major Albanian stand-up comedians in America. He's toured over 10 different American states, including big cities in California, in Florida, New York, and probably coming soon to a town near you. And we have the absolute honor and privilege to get a private show from him today. Is that possible? We're super excited. Edmond, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to do this right now. So I appreciate everything.
Welcome,
That's
guys.
so...
I've known Edmund for a couple of years now. This guy is a workaholic. My man used to DJ. He now does comedy, which he's pretty good at. I post him all the time on my page, and I swear I laugh at a lot of the stuff he posts. So it's really good stuff. And I'm happy you're on, man. And I just want to ask you one thing: what the heck made you start with comedy?
Man, everybody asked me that, and it's so I one of my jobs was I started working at a comedy club, right? And then the manager there, he was a comedian, and he would just ask me different things about Albania, and my answers were kind of like funny to him, like uh one of my most viral jokes is like my family came here winning the lottery, and he was like, so what'd y'all do with the money? I'm like, you don't win any money, you just get to leave. And so it would be little conversations like that, and he was like, you should start doing stand up and like talking about that, like to me it's normal, like to us,
Mhm.
right? But when I talked to him about it, he's a comedian and he saw it from a different view and was like, that's kind of funny. So
That's awesome. What's his name? Let's give him a shout out.
yeah, his name is Jamie Morgan.
Jamie
Shout out
Morgan.
Jamie Morgan.
He's
I like that.
skyrocketing his career. I really love the fact that I found your videos online and I saw your name. I'm like, is he Albanian? Of course you were Albanian given your name, but then I couldn't believe the fact that, okay, I've seen Persian comedians make jokes about Persian culture or Indian comedians make jokes about Indian culture. I finally saw an Albanian. I was like, yes, we do that. That's hilarious. What was one of your most memorable shows where you introduced yourself as an Albanian comedian?
So everyone introduces me like from Albania or the Albanian comedian, or people remember me because anybody who's seen my comedy is like, I mention Albania like almost every joke. So people in my town like don't even know my name. They just say, hey, you're the Albanian comedian, you know? So it just because there isn't really that many other people from Albania. So when they hear it, they kind of like think about like, where's that? Or like, oh, I've heard of that country before. So they pay more attention uh, because they know I'm going to talk about it, like, so yeah, I mean,
Where exactly do you live in the United States? So people get to
Myrtle
know.
Beach, Myrtle Beach,
Myrtle
South
Beach.
Carolina. Yeah.
Okay. And who who are like some people you look up to in the comedian world, or some people you, I guess, not mold yourself over, but like you love their jokes and their style, and it kind of like portrays to you. Who are some like comedic inspirations you have?
Man, I like so many different types of comedians. There's a comedian, his name is Yakov Smirnov, and he was like, um, I think he's Russian, and if he sees
With a,
this, he might
with a
be
name
mad
like Smirnov, yeah, for sure.
because he knows who I am. Like he shared some of my videos, and when he first started, he had like an accent, and he talked about Russia.
Mhm.
Um, and he's a clean comedian. Like he still tours, very funny, and he's one of my favorites. And Dave Chappelle is one of my favorites.
The goat.
Um, yeah, definitely him. I like Jerry Seinfeld. There's like so many different ones that like I don't know, like whatever I feel like, I'll just watch, different comedians. I don't really have, so it's based on all of them. you know. Yakov Smirnoff has that foreign point of view, you know. He, like, in the beginning of his career, he talked about Russia and America and stuff, and that's kind of like where I'm at. I talk about the differences, and then Dave Chappelle, he kind of like, you know, he doesn't have a gray line or whatever. He's, you know, he's not scared to break the rules and talk about whatever he wants to
Yeah.
talk about, you know. But with him, it's like, because he's established himself so well that, you know, nothing can happen to his career, because he is like probably the best comedian alive in most people's minds, you know.
And to base off of that, to branch off of what you just said, like Dave Chappelle, do you think it's right for like comedians to get canceled? Because I mean, realistically, you are a comedian, and it's like people should understand like comedians are off limits. So it's like,
Yeah.
how can a comedian get canceled? What do you feel about that? Like, does that bother you?
No, I believe part of it, when you're not famous, being canceled is a great thing. I'll give you an example. I've worked with Shane Gillis. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, I
And
love him.
he got canceled, right, for saying something on a podcast.
Mhm.
And he got cast in on SNL, and they took him off. But now people found out who he was, so he just became a major star because of being canceled, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like when you're famous, it only affects you in a negative way. But when you're not famous, like, it can only help you. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
if there's like something like a major article about me and it's trying to make me look bad, people are going to look it up. Well, I've never heard of him. Let me see. And then some of those people might like me. So like, it'll only help me create my own fan base, you
But I do
know?
have to say
So,
you are pretty famous. I wouldn't say you're not famous. You're pretty famous. You're like a household name when it comes to comedy in the Albanian-American community, at least.
yeah.
And I just find it interesting how you can turn on and turn off that switch when you're on stage and you are a performer and a character.
Yeah.
And then, of course, assume your daily life. Like, people will see you only as a public figure. We get that all the time. And they don't think that you actually have a personal life and life beyond that. But who is Edmond on stage and who is he in everyday life?
I think it's both like kind of similar, because as Albanians, like, we love to talk about Albania. So like,
Literally.
that's all I talked about, even at work. Like, anytime a Dua Lipa song plays, I'm like, you know, she's Albanian, right?
Same
And
all
like,
the time.
all the people I work with, like,
Guilty.
yeah, like, they've heard me say that a million times, right? And so in my case, I feel like I'm very similar, except when I'm on stage, it's a written act. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to say, when I'm going to say it, right? The only time I go off script is if someone interrupts me, right? And then I kind of got to be on my toes, like the way I respond, you know, because I don't want to make them feel bad, right? But I also like want to say something funny. So, and that goes into crowd work. So sometimes I'll do a little bit, but most comedians have like a script and they just kind of go off of
Do
that.
do you enjoy ever interacting with like the crowd? Like, say somebody says something to you and you kind of like rebuttal and diss them. Do you enjoy that? Do you get that a lot, or does it just rarely
Um,
happen?
it doesn't happen as often unless the comedian invites them
Okay.
in. So if I'm on stage and you're sitting in front of right there, front seat, and I ask you a question, now, you know, but we're gonna take it where I want you to go. It's like a magician. Like, they know the card you're gonna pick,
Yeah.
right? So they have something planned for it. So if they ask you, oh, what do you do for a living? And you say you're a teacher. Okay, well, I have a joke about teaching, right? Or if you say you know, I don't know, like, you're a singer, right? They have a little joke about that. So
Yeah.
even that, most of the time, it's kind of planned out, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned something cool. You said, as Albanians, we tend to be funny. Like, we can be sarcastic, or we'll turn a gloomy situation into something enjoyable, at least to get through the day. Or maybe that was our parents' culture when they grew up with less, for example. How did you find that to be an asset when you were starting to perform? And were any of your jokes, did they miss the line, or did they miss the spot sometimes and people didn't understand them?
Oh yeah, I mean, with me being like known as the Albanian comedian, because that's like my whole pitch, I guess, right now. Yeah, when you try a new joke, it doesn't always go the way you want, and there's something missing, or it could be a word, or it could be the way you say it, so, or the act out, you know. But that happens all the time. You try a new joke, it doesn't hit. You have to figure out what did they
Yeah.
miss, and then after that, you try a good joke that works.
So
Yeah.
are you
And what?
go ahead.
No, sorry. Like, what did you ever feel like your first time on stage? Was that like
Oh
a scary
man,
moment?
my first time on stage, people were doing this. They're like, "Oh my god."
You
But what
just
did that
can't
make you
give up.
feel?
You can't give up.
Yeah.
The reason, so my first time on stage, um, yeah, it was bad. Like people were looking down, they were getting secondhand embarrassment. Like, and but when it's your first time, you don't know how bad you actually are. You know what I mean? And so the comedian before me, she did a joke about somebody's like, she was like saying, I only date guys who have low insurance, right? With their cars and their homes, right? And
Okay.
so I go up, uh, and then I ask her something. I don't know what I said to her. And then she goes, "Well, how much is your insurance?" And I was like, "I don't know. My parents pay for it." And then everybody laughed.
I like that.
And then that's when I realized, like, I like it was so rewarding because everybody laughed. Like I'm looking at people doing this the whole time, and they're like that was pretty funny. You know what I mean?
There's
And but like I'm talking about like 5 whole minutes just getting one laugh. Like that's very bad.
an
You know what I'm saying?
agonizing task. I mean, whenever I think of people that do humor and are funny in general, I'm like, that's a smart person. Because to have a sense of humor and to be able to crack someone's code, no matter how serious or unserious they are,
Yeah.
that takes a certain level of intellect and IQ. And to be able to do it repeatedly in front of
Yeah.
different audiences, that's a very special talent. But are you as funny in Albanian as you are in English?
Not as funny in Albanian, and the reason I say that because I did Albanian comedy in Albania, in
Where?
Albanian,
In
in Tirana,
Okay.
and I did a couple of shows there. And my last shows, which was in February, though that one was a lot better than my first couple ones. And so, Albania stand-up comedians in Albania, they don't have like here you have to make people laugh within 10 to 15 seconds,
Second.
maybe 30 seconds. So then it has to be a punchline. Right. In Albania, they wait for it longer. And the problem is I'm trying to write jokes where the punchline is like within 15, 20 seconds.
Right.
And so I'm having a hard time because I speak English better than Albanian. And I'm trying to understand their humor, right? And talk about things that like like here, if I talk about Donald Trump or Joe Biden, everybody will get it. Right. Over there, they don't know him as well or something that they did. It's
Yeah.
like all the time. If somebody did a joke about Enver Hoxha, I wouldn't. I know who he is, but I don't know that much about him to get the joke.
When did you
Yeah.
come to America that cultural difference happened, I guess?
In 2002.
Okay, 2002. And you've
So
been
you've been here.
away since then. And of course, it's hard to stay attached and understand what's happening, especially when political leaders come and go in our
Yeah.
part of the world a lot. So some stay though, some stay for a very long
Yeah.
time.
I have noticed though too in Albania that comedy's starting to kind of slowly take off there too, because I follow a page on Instagram where they have these Albanian stand-up comedians,
hmm,
but you can tell their jokes are a lot longer, as you explained. They seem
Yeah.
to run on a bit longer, and then they hit you with a punchline maybe a minute into the joke.
Yeah.
they tell stories for a while too.
Yeah, because Albanians are storytellers. Like
Yeah.
there has to be a huge story behind it until you finally crack the code, and that's I feel like that's how the Albanian jokes are. There's not as much satire and sarcasm. It's like a different style.
It
I think.
is. Go ahead, Edmond. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think it'll develop. Just because that's a long time to wait. You know what I mean? Like here, people want you to make them laugh real fast. If you don't make
Instantly.
people laugh within a minute, they're looking at their phones. Like there are comedy rooms where people will like take their keys out, and when they do this, that means they're ready to go.
Mm,
Like you need to
Really?
either leave the stage, bring someone else up, or we're leaving. Like
mhm.
they're not
See,
patient, you know.
that's why I like Dave Chappelle, because he makes you laugh within the first 5 seconds of just looking at him. You know, some people just have that like glow where they just instantly make you laugh even without saying anything sometimes.
So I agree. Uh, but I'm also going to add that with Dave Chappelle, when you're paying $100, $200 a ticket or maybe more, right? You're going to watch, you're not going to get impatient. You know what I'm saying? When you're famous, you're there for them, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, even if he takes 10 minutes to make you laugh, you're there because you want to hear what he has to say, right?
Mhm.
And so when you're not famous, you have to work for it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like anything else, right? When you're,
Understood.
it's like they'll wait. It's your show. Like when you're not famous, it's like, hey, we paid money, you better give us a show, like type
Yeah.
attitude.
What
Yeah.
does your
I get it.
family say about your career in comedy entertainment?
They in the beginning, like they knew I did stand up, but they didn't see me perform till a few years in, right? I had a show in Charlotte and it was a comedy competition and there was 32 comedians and my parents, it was actually on my birthday like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, my parents came. Well, my mom made it to the show, my dad got sick, so I performed. I was like the seventh or eighth in, and it was like 300 people there, and my
Wow.
mom was amazed how hard I made them laugh. Like I only was up there 5 minutes, and but also at that point I'm polished, so I kind of know what I'm doing.
Right.
And so when I wanted them to see me, I wanted them to see me like when I'm ready. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so she wouldn't stop talking about it. Like we drove, it was
Mhm.
a 4 hour drive, and then my dad came to another comedy competition in Myrtle Beach, and I won that one. So he got to see me win, and so that was like he
That's dope.
wouldn't stop talking about it, right? So now it's like, oh my god, like that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like you're making them laugh in English, and it's like
I love
they're more amazed, you know.
That's pretty awesome.
to get that
You
support from family. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
do you have any dream venues you want to perform at?
Yeah, the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. Um, that one, just because it has like, there's a documentary about it on
Yeah.
HBO. So it's a world famous the Comedy Store.
Joe
Um,
Rogan. Joe Rogan talks about that on his podcast all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
hear that one.
So uh, when I was in Los Angeles one time, I was like, I drove by it, but I would like to get booked to it instead of like doing their open mic. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But if I get some like whenever I'm out there in Vegas, I might try to just do that anyway, you know. But that's one of the places that I can think of at the top of my head.
It's
Okay.
a big venue with a lot of people from different demographics, is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. So, are you gonna stick to the Albanian skits only, or do you see yourself developing in the future and tapping into other immigrant groups or demographics as well?
No, I think the Albanian thing is will work for now or
Okay.
until at least like if I get on Netflix or Jimmy Fallon or one of those TV shows, then you know they're gonna know me. Oh, this Albanian guy, and then I'll push that a little bit more and then expand. It's like Joey Coy. You know, he got famous by
Yeah.
doing those Asian accents, right? But then he's gonna like move on from that. It's like that's your pitch in the beginning, and then you expand into everything else. Because like, I mean, what am I gonna talk about? Like after you can say, you know, let's say I have a comedy special, like after 30, 45 minutes, it's like, what else am I gonna say about Albania? I have to move
Yeah.
on. You know what I mean? Um,
No, you're right. There's only
so
so much you can say.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know. And my friends made that meme where there's guy like holding, there's veins popping out, and it's like he's about to sneeze, and it was like Edmond like trying not to mention Albania when he shows.
That's hilarious.
Relatable. That's funny.
Oh,
So
God.
eventually, yeah. But right now, I'm also like, the problem is, well, it's not really a problem. It's the Instagram algorithm. When I mention Albania, it just like pushes it so much more. But that's going to be my way in. Hey, this Albanian comedian. And then from then, I'll grow and like just move on to different subjects.
I think
Yeah,
it's
the
such
out.
a perfect destination to be a random immigrant from, because who thinks of Albania? They're like, what is
Yeah.
that small little country? And
Yeah.
I'm sure you do it justice, but you can twist and turn it depending on your audience, because it's hard to fact check you when you're on stage unless someone is there with a paper and pen trying to
Yeah.
analyze what you're saying. So you can start from village life to city life to anything
Yeah.
else in between.
I've never been fact checked because Americans have no idea. Whatever I say, they believe.
I love it even though when the non-Albanian comedians will make like an Albanian joke, and I'm like, these
Really?
guys, yeah, I'm like, these guys know
Ooh,
Albanians way too well. Oh, they pop up on my TikTok and Instagram
Yeah.
randomly, but there's
that's
always
There's
like
a
some
couple.
comedians. There's a
Yeah.
lot of comedians that make some really good Albanian jokes, and I start dying.
what are
Yeah.
the stereotypes that people play with when it comes to Albanians?
It's one of them is like
Fascinating.
the like the mafia guys or something. There's one guy I follow. I think he's from London, and he made a joke about Albanians. So there's a few that mention it, and there's a guy I did comedy with, and he was doing crowd work, and the people in the front were Albanian. So there's been a few, but yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
mafia is one. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a bigger word, but
I think I posted a video on the meme page the other day about a guy who was like uh asking people in Switzerland like about being doctors or surgeons and how only Swiss people can be surgeons in Switzerland. And he was like, I'd much rather have an Albanian doctor because they're good with knives. And I was
that.
like, and I'm just like, this guy is hilarious. Oh, but yeah, there is a lot of people that do crowd work, and I appreciate when they do that though because I find it funny. At least for me, I don't know about any of the other Albanians, but
I
for
got a
me,
video I'm gonna post. I kind of did crowd work. And so anyway, so this lady's phone rings in the middle of my joke, and her ringtone sounded like a home phone. And I was like, "Did your home phone just ring?" And so the crowd
but
thought it was like really funny, and and she didn't answer it, and it was like her grandkids or something. And
oh
so it
god,
was a little bit of it was pretty funny at the moment too.
I love that.
But yeah, I mean, I appreciate good crowd work. It's very hard to do. There's very few people that, because you're watching what people are like posting. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're choosing to post, right? So you
Yeah,
didn't. They could have done crowd work for 30 minutes and that's all they had. Like they got one good one. You know what I mean? Just like with me, like I record every show. I do 3, 4 shows a week, and it's like these reality shows. It's a reality, but they're choosing what to show you and what to
yeah.
make you believe, right? So
Of course,
it's very hard to do.
is it your passion? Like, could you give it up if you became too busy? Or is it something that you think you just want to do forever?
No, I would do it forever. There's like I can't not do it. uh I make jokes with my friends all the time. I'm like, man, I'm gonna quit, and but there's hundreds of comedians who like never gotten famous, but they're so funny and
Mhm.
it's so rewarding, and they can't like it would be like some of the comedians I watch, if they quit, I would be devastated, right? Because they're that good that
Role
when you're
model.
famous, people could be laughing because they're so happy to see you. So that makes you even funnier because they
That's
just paid
true.
a lot more money. But when you're not famous, the laughs aren't fake, like not even a little bit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you earned it.
Mhm. Where
you
was
know.
your aha moment of saying, I earned this? That felt amazing. The hard work paid off.
I mean, just anytime I'm on stage and they laugh, it's not, like
I
that,
love
my
how
very first show, that I said like 99% of it was terrible. And then just one little joke, I was like, oh my God, they laughed and they meant it. They're not fake laughing. Like that was funny, you know? And so anytime I perform, um, if they're laughing, it feels good, because they don't know who I am. They didn't pay to see me. Sometimes I'm the opening act. So it's like I'm not on the billboard. They don't even know I'm performing. Right. So
Yeah.
when they laugh and they come by and talk to me after the show, like they're being real. It's like with some other professions, like I post people's music all the time, right? I to support them, but they can't prove that I like it or don't like it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Until they actually perform,
Hmm.
you
Well,
know.
what goes into your like your writing process for comedy? Like put us in the mind of how you start writing a joke. Like
Good
what goes
question.
into it?
Sometimes it's just random. I think about something. So I worked as a substitute teacher for a few years, and I do a few jokes about that. And one of them, one morning, like I really didn't want to go, but like once you schedule it, you can't really cancel it. Well, you can, but then it makes it look bad. So on my way to work, I drove by somebody who had a flat tire, and that just made me think like, what if I called them and like what if like that's the teacher, like they're like, hey, can you cover Miss Medicine, she had a flat tire, and I'm like, can I just go fix her tire and she'll come in, you know so
That's actually great. You're being
that's
funny without trying to be funny, which is
yeah,
excellent.
that's like one of my jokes too. And then another reason was oh yeah, another punchline from that was like, oh well, so and so's pregnant, and then I'm like, well, I got to be there too. I might be the father, and so it's just like thinking of different scenarios in my everyday life.
Yeah.
Um, my one of my like most people's favorite is like I'm the youngest. So I got to live with my parents, and now I'm like trying to get them to have another kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones you ever did because I'm the youngest. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I always tell my mom, "You need another kid. I'm tired of being the baby."
Do you ever make jokes about like Albanian couples and relationships?
Yeah.
I did a show in New York, and one of them, I just kind of thought about it at the moment. It's like, all right, who came here with the green card lottery? And like a few people like clapped their hands, and then I was like, all right, which one of y'all married someone to get here? And then they start laughing, because it's like most Albanians like will go to Albania to find a spouse, or like including me, uh, or we'll
That's why
go,
you were there 7 times in the past 3 years.
yeah. Um, Well, there's actually no Albanian women in Myrtle Beach. So there's maybe like three, and they're like taken.
Let's talk about that for a second. Albanians, I think, well, many cultures do this, but I've especially seen it in the Albanian community here. Even if they're third generation out, they have something within them, whether it be family structure or their own calling, to end up with an Albanian. And
Yeah.
they'll find them. You're in Myrtle Beach. You said you're in South Carolina. It's not really
Yeah.
the epicenter of Albanian culture. And you said to yourself, I'm gonna fly out to Albania 7 times if it takes me
Yeah.
to find a wife.
Yeah. I mean, just
That's
like
great.
a lot of people were surprised because I have Albanian friends who've only been here a few years, and they're like in a relationship with people with other races, And so when they saw me like do that, they were kind of like, wait a minute, like you're like the most Americanized, I guess, been here the longest. And so like I didn't go with that purpose. I just like I went and went on a date, and it worked out. And then I went back like 7, 8 times. you
Well,
know.
we all know you keep extending her stay over there.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my
Rock
favorite
should
jokes we
join you
had
on a
too.
show. You guys have chemistry. Look at that. You
Uh,
could be two
Yeah.
Albanians in one.
my mom always tells me I should be a comedian. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I have the guts to be on stage and have people look at me while I tell a joke. I don't know if I can
We
do that.
we can do workshop, man. Like every week I meet up with other comedians. We work on jokes. Like what I post is like I maybe had to do that joke like 100 times or had to work on it for a couple months or maybe sometimes you get lucky and it just you think of the right words and it just works out, or sometimes I'll call my comedy friends and they'll help me, right? But it's like a process. It's like you're an artist. Like you'll record a verse, like when you see it on paper you're like, okay, but how does it come out? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And then you might have to go back, all right, let me take that off and put that in, and it's like,
yeah,
and then you're going to post that, the good one, you know what I mean? So
exactly.
Except
there's
here, you
times where,
repost everything.
yeah, you're going to see the good stuff.
Oh my
No,
God.
you're right. You're totally right about that. It is tough. Sometimes you do have to like go back and perfect something multiple times until you're ready to release it. So it is tough. It is tough because you never know what's good until you actually try it. You know.
Yeah,
Where are
yeah.
you from in Albania?
Pogradec.
Pogradec. Okay.
Okay,
So
that's southern.
it's the southern.
Yeah.
Southern. You guys in your southern charms.
Finally, I get to speak to someone who's also like from the South. Well, I'm not from the South. My grandparents are from the South and they're originally from Chameria, a
Okay.
region of Albania that was southern Albania. And
Mhm.
I was wondering about your last name. Your last name is Chami. Are you from Chameria as well? Or is that just your last name?
Honestly, I don't know.
You should ask, you should inquire. That could open up a whole new, you
I
know,
might
Can of
have to,
worms.
can of worms. I'm gonna say something else, but yeah.
yeah, when you asked me that before, I thought about it and then I totally forgot, but I'm gonna have to ask like my parents and my family back home, but yeah, that would be interesting.
That could be
Alrighty.
interesting. When you go back to Albania, geographically, people have accents and dialect, and of course, their jokes are a product of that themselves. Do you find Southern dialect jokes funnier, or do you find Northern humor funnier?
I mean, to me, if like, because I have trouble like understanding some of the cities there, like people from Shkodra, like
Uh-huh.
I have a hard time understanding some of them, some of the stuff they say, and so it just depends on each city. Like,
Okay.
if it's a simple joke or whatever they say, because like for me when I went there and did shows, it was hard to write in Albanian and put sentences together. That was my first challenge, and now I have to make it funny,
Mm-hmm.
right, and relatable.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in America for 22 years. I don't have that much to relate. Like one of the main jokes is that Ork was mentioning is like where I pushed my wife's visa back, like if she made me mad, like push her interview. That joke that I posted, like over there, it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and there
um,
isn't such a there isn't such a heavy influx of Albanians where you live either, so it's kind of hard to even you're
yeah,
like at least here with the East Coast, there's so many Albanians that it feels
yeah,
like you haven't left home.
yeah,
Whereas for you, you're like really in just your own space there, your own bubble.
yeah. Um, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I that reminded me of something because your energy is really calm and you're really tranquil, which I would have imagined you to be like super robust and energetic. Like I'm a comedian, but I've heard something really interesting, which is that comedians create and source their humor from a very dark place of loneliness and sadness too. And that can be completely wrong. But is that true? Do they tend to be sad people?
Um, it makes sense, and I don't know if we say we're sad, but it comes like comedians. If you hang out with a lot of comedians, you'll understand. Comedians have jokes for the crowd, for the people, and then we have comedians' jokes, and
Mhm.
that the public will may or may never see. right? Because they won't appreciate the art of it because it's so dark. It's
Mm.
like somebody doing a joke about rape, right? That wouldn't be very funny. You know what I mean? It would, if it's a really good joke, only comedians will appreciate it. You see what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so we think like certain dark jokes, maybe not that dark, just some like the one where I talk about like trying to get my parents to have another kid, right? It's not really dark, but it's like you get it. You know what I mean? It's like you understand like yeah, like I would live by myself, but it's the culture, it's the tradition, it's my parents. So I created a humor from that situation, and that kind of helps me, and it just makes my life that much better. And like I have people tell me all the time, like maybe like have my own show, like you ever watch King of Queens or Everybody Loves Raymond? And it's like me,
Heard of
my
them.
American wife, living with my Albanian parents. Like, what
An
would that?
Albanian sitcom.
And she's like, what is happening?
That'd be interesting. That
That'd
would
be
actually be
really
very
cool.
interesting.
Like how would that work out? Like if I had an American wife and we had to live with immigrant parents in the same house. And it's not even because of money. Like we could have all the money in the world, but we're choosing to do that.
Mhm.
Like an American woman would never understand. You know what I mean?
You know,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of examples, I'm not gonna lie, that marry into Persian households or different ethnic households, like let's call them, and some adapt and they create their own humor. There's someone that I follow on Instagram who has married into a Persian household, and all she does is create humor because
Yeah.
of her experience and having learned the language too. And I'm like, wow, like she's amazing with creating that kind of content. So you never know where that
Yeah.
could go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I believe like some of it comes from a dark place. Um, it's the only place where people are real. Like when we perform, they can't fake a laugh. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to fake a laugh. If I listen to you guys sing or whatever, I'm be like, oh hey, that was great, right?
You can tell.
Mhm.
And you won't know, right? But if I have to make you laugh or cry, like that's it's hard to fake than if I'm just like looking at something else live,
Well,
right?
let's go. We're on the spot now.
Yeah.
Make us cry. Don't be mean. Make us cry.
Well,
Megan.
I try not to make people cry, or else I wouldn't have any other shows.
You have our permission.
But making people laugh is like they can't lie to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. It's hard.
having,
It's hard to fake a laugh. I completely
you know
understand
what I
what you
mean?
mean.
But
Like,
like, think about performing in front of 100 people. You're telling me you're gonna make 100 people fake laugh
Yeah.
for like
yeah.
10 minutes?
Then the numbers are less questionable, of course.
You know what I mean? It's like real. Like you watch the video, you're like, yep, that wasn't funny at all. Like that was terrible. And they don't have to come up to me. And some people are even more honest than that. It's like they'll come up after the show and be like, "Ooh, man, that was tough." Like, and to
That's great, actually.
uh,
When are you performing next? Where can we find you in person?
well, right now, the next few weeks it'll be locally or like South Carolina, North Carolina.
Mhm.
But September, I might be doing shows in Vegas, and then October, November, or December, I'm gonna try to book another show in New York. So that's gonna be my next thing, and then I'm gonna try to book a show in Boston. Like it's gonna be like quick, like one night or maybe 2 nights. It's not gonna be like there all week. You know what I mean?
Representing
You should
Boston, my city. There you go.
you should do Connecticut as well. They just actually opened a comedy club in Stamford where I live, and it's called New York City Comedy Club, but it's New
Okay.
York City Comedy Club Stamford. So
Okay.
you should definitely
Well,
check that out because it's become popular.
okay. Can I stay at your house if they don't give me a room?
The doors are open.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
doors
we're
are open, man.
that we mean it.
Yeah, no, doors are open, bro. In my house all the time.
I'm gonna look them up though, because I have I got a lot of followers from Albanians from when I did a show in New York, I had 80 Albanians show up.
Wow.
And I wasn't the main act. I was just like doing like a short spot, you know.
People love
And
it because you really touch a string in their heart, I think.
yeah,
They will pay just to show up and say, yeah, that's me. I feel seen. That's my culture. That's
yeah,
someone making fun of something that I maybe felt vulnerable about so many years
yeah.
ago. But now I'm wearing it in stride. And I think that's so powerful. The fact that you can do that through humor and just representation, because people see you and they don't just see a comedian. Of course, they see a performer, they see an artist, they see someone with potential who has taken something courageous and run with it. And it
Yeah.
inspires them to do more. So really thank you for going out there and trying something so uncomfortable at first and now becoming a household name with it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah,
It's even more inspiring to see from one ship's art to another ship's art, like
no,
doing something that I think one in 1 in 2 million do.
yeah,
Is you're
yeah,
doing something very rare, especially here in the United States. There's only been so many probably Albanian comedians in the United States, probably just besides Jim Belushi and his brother,
yeah.
and it's pretty awesome to see, man. I'm honestly a big fan of it. I've been a big fan of it ever since you started doing it. So I love it.
Thank you.
I'm
I've
I'm
been
proud of you, man.
Thank you. I've been a fan of your music for years. I was
I
like,
know it's like it works both ways. So
yeah,
I like
man.
that.
And like that song and the Kung Fu. What was that song called? Kung Fu.
Kung Fu, yeah, Kung Fu,
Okay.
and explain, which is Don't Gotta Explain Myself podcast is
Yeah,
where I got the name from. So it's
Mm.
perfect. This guy
man.
right here, when he was DJing, I literally used to get a clip from him like every weekend at the DJ booth with my song at his club. I'm like, oh, I love this. He was like
There
one
you
of the first
go.
people supporting me. So,
Yeah.
I,
With the
I hold
music
that.
video and everything.
Yeah, I hold that dearly too because it meant a lot too right at the beginning of my career with the music. So I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Of course.
But to get into the whole Albanian thing, usually me and Daya ask a couple questions
Yeah.
strictly about
Read my mind.
Albania and like what are some of your favorite Albanian foods? What is something you go crazy for? You can't live without. What is
Don't
something
say
you really
burek,
love?
please. Everyone has said burek. You want to hear something else.
Well, that's what I was thinking. La Croix, is that the thing?
You
What
gotta
was the
choose
other one?
something else.
Is La Croix the same thing?
Lacroix. No, Lacroix is different.
It's a little
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Explain it to people who have never had Lacroix.
Yeah. I would say that is probably one of my favorites. Um, man, honestly, I don't know. Like when I went, the seafood was great in Albania all these times. I've had different types of seafood. So, um, and it's so fresh over there, the food. It's like,
Almost like you're by a sea or something like that. I don't know.
well, even the meat and the vegetables and all that stuff, it's like when I come back here and it has no flavor, like, I mean, I don't know when the last time y'all went to Albania, but
I was there in the winter. I was there up in February.
okay, I was there too in February.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And I've never been to Albania, only Kosovo. But I know when I go to Kosovo, the food is a million times better than here. It tastes so good not having something that's genetically modified.
Dude, when you go to Kosovo, tell them you're American. They'll love you. You get
Yeah,
away with
right.
it. No, I swear. I tested it because I have some friends in Kosovo. They worked here during the summer, like as students. And then they were like, dude, if you ever get pulled over, like tell them you're American and they'll let you off with a warning. And I put it to
Oh,
the test. I drove in the wrong way of the street that was blocked off, and I drove as a shortcut. And
ooh.
of course, just to get pulled over, and I showed them my passport, and they were like, "Oh yeah, man." I was like, "I'm sorry," and they were like, "No, it's fine. Just go through this way. But if you're in town tomorrow, please don't come through this." And just to put it to the test. So I promise you, like
Yeah, Kosovo's friendly for that.
they're so nice. Like I think they're nicer than Albanians, honestly.
I hear that a lot, but I don't know. I've never been to Albania, so that's I gotta experience that for
I'm
myself.
keeping my
Yeah.
mouth shut on this conversation topic. I think it really depends on who you come across, whether
Yeah.
you're in Albania proper, or because it's all Albania. It's just northern
Mhm.
Albania, South Albania, and we have to mention Macedonia because the
Yeah.
Macedonians, like half of the population in Macedonia is like, hello, almost half, not exactly. It's like we're
Yeah,
all
they're always like,
too.
"Don't forget us."
Don't forget us. Hello, some of the best singers have come out of there, but it really just depends who you come across. I think
Yeah.
anywhere, north, south, east, west. Um,
Mhm.
but definitely I think in Kosovo, because they're a bit newer to being an independent country and
Mhm.
rehabilitating from that history, I think it's more interesting when there's foreigners that
Mhm.
come into the country, and especially if you are coming in from America, they do have statues of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton,
Mhm. Mhm.
streets named after them. So that makes perfect sense in its own way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Edmond, since we have only a couple of minutes left, where can we find you? Where can your fans, new and old, get in touch with you, watch your videos, and support what you're doing?
So mostly it's just my Instagram. I'm getting a lot, like most of my views and followers from there. That's what's blown up the most out of all my social media. So I prefer that one because that's where I spend most of my time.
Mhm.
And I mean, I guess it makes sense. I spend more time in it, you know. Um, I promote it more, but I prefer to use Instagram for now.
Mhm.
I use everything else too, but
What's
Instagram
your
just
Instagram
got it
handle?
monetized, so I'm pushing it more to try to make money from that too. So
Nice. What's your Instagram handle so everybody knows?
EDMONDCAMI_.
Simple.
Hey,
Yeah.
we'll have it all linked
Perfect.
here so people can get access to. Edmond, thank you so much for your time today and just making us laugh. I don't think you even intended to make us laugh, but it was funny regardless. We can't wait to see you perform in LA and maybe even London. Um, Anywhere you want, really. We'll see you there. And hopefully we'll catch you at your next show, either in New York, Boston, or DC.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, man,
Yeah.
and I'm always going to support you. We'll make sure the whole Albanian American community supports you, and just the Albanian community in general. Guys, make sure show all of our Albanian entrepreneurs and entertainers some love because we do
For
work
real.
really hard. We work really hard at what we do. We're trying to grow Albania in a positive way, and Edmund's definitely doing that in a great way with comedy. And like I said, I appreciate you for everything you do, man, and thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank
And
you for having me, man. I really
your
appreciate it.
wife better be here.
She'll be here in about a month, actually.
No,
Okay.
no, he's gonna extend it again.
Oh no, the visa interview is postponed. Sorry, honey.
What's funny, I actually did get postponed. It was supposed to be on the 11th, and they put it to the 25th. And she was like asking me, and like she was just like making jokes about it. And but they actually postponed everyone because I had some other friends that are coming. So
Because
uh,
we called
it
them
was
and they said if we postpone hers, we're gonna have to postpone all of theirs. And you're like, do it, man.
Now she probably really thinks you're doing it on purpose.
she
Oh,
got it. If it would have been postponed again, that would have been like an argument. Like,
yeah. Thank God. That's awesome.
I'm
Well,
dying
thank you,
here. That's
Edmond. We'll
funny.
let you go because you got jokes to prepare, but we'll catch you soon. And thanks for joining us on another episode of DGXM.